issue 8, Spider-Man, this costume in tatters, is told. Issue 235, more McFarlane. 65, the first appearance of Captain Britain in U.S. Marvel Comics. Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years, and I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. Today we're looking at box number 105. We're going to start off with Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. We've got some Marvel Voices, and then we're going to get into Marvel Tales and start on Marvel Team Up. So it's all Marvel all the time. Some classic series here. So I'm glad you're here. Please like and comment and subscribe. If there's anything inside any of these packs you'd like to see, please be sure to let me know. Leave a comment. And but otherwise, hey, let's get going with box 105 here on Glenn Simpson's Comics. All right, the time has come. We've reached Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. This is issue 1. This miniseries was created to help sell a line of toys. But Marvel editor-in-chief Jim Shooter decided to write it, and he actually turned it into a real event. And so you had, in all of the regular series, or not all of them, but many of them, you had the heroes kind of end up in Central Park in New York, and they enter this weird gate, and then the very next issue of their series, they pop back out, and they're all talking about, oh my gosh, the Secret War was amazing, you know, blah, blah, blah. And things were different. Spider-Man had a different suit, and the Thing wasn't, with the Fantastic Four anymore, and just, all these changes. And so then then this came out, and we found out what all of the things were that happened to lead to those results. So this is issue 1. This is covered by I believe Mike Zeck there. This is also, by the way, I happen to have a Blue Galactus issue, which is, there was a printing plate problem with a part of the run, and one of the plates, the colors didn't get printed, and so the most notable result of that is that Galactus looks like he's just wearing a blue and white suit instead of his normal purple. So I just happen to have one of those. Let's see, we've got issue 2 right there through issue 4. For those of you power scalers, the Hulk is holding up most of a mountain, or 150 billion tons. We've got issue 5. There's a little bit of dissension within the heroes, between the X-Men and the other heroes. Issue 7. We have the there we have the introduction of, somewhere in here, previous issue, we had the introduction of Julia Carpenter as Spider-Woman. We had Titania. We had Volcana. All their first appearances here in Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars. But from issue 7, we go to, of course, the Big Daddy, issue 8. Spider-Man, this costume in tatters, is told that if he goes into this room, he'll find a machine that repairs clothing. So he goes in there. He doesn't know which button to push. He pushes a button, a black little blob comes out, and it surrounds him and becomes a costume. And that is the advent of the black costume, which would, of course, eventually turn out to be a symbiote that would leave him and go to Eddie Brock and become Venom. Right there, issue 8. issue 9. There. Issue 10. Big old Beyonder is the old uber powerful being that summoned all the heroes and villains to this planet. Doom tries to steal his power, as Doom tends to do. Issue 11. Doom gets enough of it to heal his face. And issue 12. The whole thing gets resolved. Doom loses the power and everybody gets sent home. But not everybody goes home. The Thing stays. So, there we go. Okay, next we have a very more recent series. Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars Battle World. Kind of it's a celebration of the 40 years since the original. And it kind of takes place in between a couple of issues, or inside one of the issues. Some more villains and heroes get summoned and have a big old fight, but the Beyonder makes them forget about it when they're done. So that's issue 1 through issue 4. There. And we've got some of the Marvel Voices one-shots. They are a series of anthology books that focus on, sometimes it's on disenfranchised groups like Native Americans or LGBTQ plus, or sometimes it's focused on a particular group like Avengers. And I think in that case, it's just the creatives who fall into that category, I think. This one's celebrating 60 years of Avengers. So these are all kind of one-shots, but they're kind of bundled up. So this is Marvel Voices Avengers there. We've got this one for Latin and Latinx there. Got, again, one of the Native American one there. Got this one with, not sure. Oh, well, it says Black History Month, but there's Jubilee on them. I guess most of them count. I don't know. Maybe all the creatives, or African American, or whatever. Another Marvel Voices Legacy. And Marvel Voices Pride. There. Another Marvel Voices Pride. There we go. And another one. Focused on Spider-Verse. There. Spider-Punk. And one focusing on X-Men. There. Got the very recent comic book sized Marvel Swimsuit special with an Adam Hughes cover on it. There. Oh, we can see the other side of that. Tony Stark in his Speedo. Then we get to, from there, something, we jump way back. So Marvel Tales started off, I believe it started just literally telling, various reprinted stories. Some of them not even superheroes from Marvel, previous publishing. But eventually it settled into reprinting Spider-Man stories. And I had somebody ask me, get confused about this one time. So it didn't like start with like Marvel Tales 1 was Spider-Man 1. It wasn't like a 1-to-1 thing like that. It was just, they would, for a long time, they would just pick whichever stories from 4 or 5 years previous they just felt like reprinting. And then, as we'll see, eventually they started, they went back to Amazing Fantasy and then Amazing Spider-Man #1, and they did, you know, everything in order there for a while, and then they jumped over and started doing themes again. They started doing X-Men, you know, Spider-Man with the X-Men or Spider-Man with the Punisher, things like that. And I don't have a complete run of this because at some point you got into stories where either the book was, you know, kind of expensive, even though it's the reprint. Sometimes some of these were still kind of expensive, or they were reprinting something that I already had, which I do have quite a few here that I also have the original, and I don't really remember why I kept on buying Marvel Tales. I think at one time I was gonna get all the Marvel Tales, and then one day I was like, no, I don't need to keep doing that. So anyway, issue 64. And as I've mentioned in other videos, I'm terrible with issue numbers, so I couldn't tell you what issue they're reprinting. It's printed on the inside of each book what they're reprinting. Issue 71. Issue 74. Reprinting a story with against the Prowler. Issue 81. There. 82, issue 100. Sometimes they throw in an extra story. This has got a Hawkeye and Two Gun Kid adventure. 101. Right there. I had the book I think I had it. Book and record of this when I was a kid. 101. 103 versus the Kangaroo. Through 105 versus the Vulture. 107. Hammerhead. Spider-Mobile. 110 there versus the Molten Man. I have the original on this one. 112 Punisher, Tarantula. 113 there. 116 the Grizzly, who was treated as a serious villain. 117 there. 120 the Cyclone. 121 there through 123, throwing in a reprint of the Origin of the Inhumans there. I guess if the original stories were shorter than the modern, number of pages that were being sold for 50 cents, they would throw in that reprint, additional reprint. 124. 127. More Inhumans reprints going on. 128. to 132, Origin of Captain Britain. So, you know, even if you had the originals of the Amazing Spider-Man, you know, you got some good backup stories of other things that you might not have. Alright, we got 133. More Captain Britain backup there. And then 137 is where they decided to, okay, well, let's just start right back at the beginning and do, you know, First Appearance of Spider-Man, which of course wasn't going to fill an entire 60-cent issue, so they included the origin of Doctor Strange as well in there. And there are quite a few issues here where, you know, $15, $20, $30 FMV on these, so that's why a lot of them are red dot books, even though they're just reprinting the originals. So we got 138 reprinting Amazing Spider-Man #1. I know that one. And presumably 139 is reprinting Amazing Spider-Man 2. And at this point, I'm not even going to try to keep track of it. But we've got 141, fight with the Sandman. They did these reprints, and every once in a while, there was actually a debate over in the letters page over whether they should update any of the references. Like Aunt May says she's got to get home to watch some, you know, late 60s or early 60s TV show, and, you know, should they change it to, you know, some, you know, early 80s TV show. And they tried it a couple of times, and then everybody said, no, quit doing that. 142, Spider-Man versus Dr. Doom. 143. 144. Got a lot to get through. I better speed up. 145. 146. 147 through 152. There. 153. Kraven the Hunter. 154. Daredevil in his original suit. 155. 156. There. 158. Scorpion. 159. The Beetle, his original weird costume. 163. There. 164. 168, which is apparently reprinting for the first time ever, Amazing Spider-Man 29. So hey, we're at 29. 169. 170. 172. They started putting this border around it. I don't know if that was because somebody complained that people, you know, muggles were you know, finding these and thinking that they were the originals or why, but doing that. 172, 173, 176, 177, 178, 179 through 182. Yeah. 183. 184. 187. A lot of fights with Craven. 188. 'And okay, so then I think that's somewhere after that they stopped reprinting 1-to-1 and started jumping around again. And so 191, I think 190, 189, 190, 191 reprinted the issues, the anti-drug abuse 3-part story that Marvel had published, and the Comics Code Authority, which was the internal group that made sure that comics didn't feature anything that would be you know, bad for kids or whatever, had told them not to do that story, but Marvel decided to do it anyway. And so that was kind of, and that marks the, some say that marks the end of the Bronze Age as well. Anyway, 191. I don't know, I don't have 192 for some reason. 193 from the month when the 25th anniversary or whatever month for Marvel, and so they did the cover like all the rest of them, but used the old style Spider-Man face. 196, so they got into reprinting Marvel team-up issues, which we will actually see the originals like within this video or the next video. So again, this is where I was like, well, do I want to get all of these even though I already have the stories? I don't know, maybe I do, maybe I don't. 196, 197. They do have other reprints in them. 5-page Future Hercules tale. 200. There. 201. We also got Spider-Ham, so in the back as backups, and so that would be 201 would be the start of that. So if you're a big Spider-Ham fan, you want to look into Marvel Tales starting at issue 201, as seen in the Spider-Verse movie. 204. Spider-Man and the Man-Thing. 205. 208. Famous Spider-Man and Red Sonja issue. You know, an appealing story for a variety of reasons. For you old school readers, so if you'll recall, there was the X-Men storyline where Kulan Goth, just like in the 80s, came in and, you know, had transformed the world into, you know, a world of his, you know, at his making. Everything was kind of Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. And he has Spider-Man strung up and is torturing him. And that's because here in this story, which is being reprinted here, Spider-Man had defeated Ulan Goth in the past. So it was a bit of a throwback there. Then somewhere around 209, they just start reprinting all of the Punisher appearances. So if you're a Punisher fan but haven't read all of the appearances, you can get these for that. 209 through 212. These are new covers, a lot of them. 213. Silver Surfer reprint in the back. 216. There. 217. Through 219. Then I kind of skip up to 233, which is a early Todd McFarlane art on the covers of several issues. They started reprinting basically every time Spider-Man teamed up with the X-Men, wherever that may have happened. Issue 233. Issue 235, more McFarlane. Probably get all of those. That would be a good thing to get. And 236. So that ends Marvel Tales for me anyway. So then we go to Marvel Team Up. So Marvel Team Up was Spider-Man teaming up with various other heroes. Although I recently learned, I know sometimes it was the Human Torch teaming up with other heroes, and I recently found out why. It was like Spider-Man was appearing in some other magazine, and on like every quarter or something like that. So when he was up there, they would do a Human Torch story over here or something like that. But I don't remember what that other place was. But this is an early book. I believe, you know, the X-Men were in a weird place because they were. Their book hadn't been canceled, but they were just doing reprints, and so, but then they would appear other places, so it's like they were kind of frozen in time. But that's issue 4 right there. And we jump to something a little closer to, we're getting into January 76, which is my normal startup time. I don't know, that's June. I don't remember what the deal is, but Marvel Team Up 22 through 24, Brother Voodoo, 25, Daredevil, 26. So, you know, yeah, here's where the Human Torch is taking Spider-Man's place. 28, Spider-Man and Hercules. This is the infamous issue where Hercules pulls the island of Manhattan on a chain as if the island was floating and you could just pull it somewhere. Very odd story. 29, Human Torch and Iron Man. 32, Human Torch and Son of Satan. There. Oop. 33, Spider-Man and Nighthawk versus Meteor Man. Oh, sorry. 36, Spider-Man and the Frankenstein monster. Marvel got some good mileage out of the classic, you know, Universal monsters, if you will. Frankenstein and Dracula, whatnot. Werewolf. 36. 37. Speaking of which, man-wolf. Not a wolf man, he's a man-wolf. And 40. Sons of the Tiger. There. Alright, and then 41. Scarlet Witch. 44. Moondragon. They would do these multi-part stories where they would have, you know, he would team up with like the Vision, and then Doctor Doom, and then Scarlet Witch, and then, you know, Moondragon would come along, and that would be it would finish up the story. So it wasn't always just a done in one kind of thing. 45. Teaming up with Killraven. 46. Teaming up with Deathlock. There. 47. There. 49 with Iron Man. 50. Doctor Strange. Gil Kane. Art. 53. Incredible Hulk. There. 54. More Hulk. 55. This was actually one of my earliest comics. And Spider-Man gets trapped in a rocket that ends up on the moon, and he encounters Warlock and the Gardener, who is a little known one of the elders of the universe and so forth. And so, you know, sometimes people say, well, Spider-Man is a street level hero, and I'm like, man, you know, my whole life Spider-Man's been going into space and going to the moon, all kinds of stuff. I totally as a kid, didn't get most of what was going on in this story. Oh, but this is the first appearance of the Gardener, and it is the first appearance of the Power Gem and the Time Gem of the Infinity Stones. So there you go. 56, Daredevil, and 59 with Yellow Jacket and the Wasp. There, always liked Yellow Jacket suit. 60 with just the Wasp, no Yellow Jacket. Who needs Yellow Jacket? 63. So we're seeing one of those. This is one of those issues we saw in Marvel Tales being reprinted. There, 63. It's either this one or, of course, the finale of that story. 64. We've got 65. The first appearance of Captain Britain in U.S. Marvel Comics. There. 66. First full appearance of Arcade. There. 67. Versus Tigra, or with Tigra. Versus Kraven the Hunter. It's kind of a natural setup. 68. Here's that Man-Thing story we saw reprinted over in Marvel Tales. 69. 69, dude. There's that Spider-Man and Havoc story we saw being reprinted over there. Issue 70. There, Spider-Man and Thor. 71, Spider-Man and the Falcon. Somewhat coincidentally, 75, Spider-Man and Power Man, Luke Cage. There. 76, Spider-Man with Doctor Strange. 80, Spider-Man with Doctor Strange and Clea. I think there was a break in between there. I don't think that's entirely one story. I just noticed that. There might have been run through the whole thing. 81, Spider-Man and Satana, daughter of Satan. This is notable for the death of Satana, but apparently that didn't stick because I know I've seen her in things since then. 82, Black Widow. 86, Guardians of the Galaxy. Of course, this being the original Guardians of the Galaxy that were from the future, not Star-Lord and that crew. 87, Black Panther. 88, Spider-Man and the Invisible Girl, as she was known at the time. I always remembered this one being nice because, you know, everybody kind of acts like Spider-Man's a goof, but she was always treated Spider-Man with a lot of respect, and I appreciated that. Issue 88. Issue 90. Spider-Man with the Beast. 91. Spider-Man and Ghost Rider. 94, Spider-Man in the Shroud, Master of Darkness. Here in 95, we have the first appearance of Bobbi Morse, or Barbara Morse, as Mockingbird. She had appeared once in some magazine like Bizarre Adventures or something like that. She'd appeared one place earlier, but just as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. But here's the first time she is being given the costume and code name of Mockingbird. And I'm sure I mentioned this in the Hawkeye video, but it took me years to figure out or realize that. So over at DC, you've got Green Arrow, and he's, you know, dating Black Canary. So then over at Marvel, you have Hawkeye the Archer, and he was married to Mockingbird. And they got married pretty quick, so I don't know if that was the writer taking a poke at DC going, well, why are you still having them date? Why don't you have them just get married? But anyway, Mockingbird would go on to, to marry Hawkeye, be a West Coast Avenger, and then things would not work out. They would divorce, and she shows up every once in a while. 96, Spider-Man and Howard the Duck, team up of the century. Number 99, Spider-Man and Machine Man. Two heroes drawn frequently by Steve Ditko. 100, Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, and this is the first appearance of Karma, who would go on to be a member of the New Mutants. So she actually had her first appearance prior to you know, the New Mutants graphic novel, unlike most of the other New Mutants at the time. It's 100. And then issue 102, Frank Miller drawing a cover, Spider-Man and Doc Samson. That kind of looks a little off. And that is all for this box. Okay, so that was box number 105. Next time we will finish Marvel Team Up, including the second and third series. We've got some, we'll do Marvel 2-in-1, Marvel Universe, and then we will make our way out of Marvel, get into some Mary Jane and some Master of Kung Fu. So that's also going to be a good time. Hope you'll be here for that. Thank you so much for watching this video, and hey, have a great day.